सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Things are moving very rapidly in Pakistan, some on predictable lines, some on not such predictable lines. We also have some very interesting takeaways, in fact 3 takeaways from there, and that's the reason I'm recording this episode of Clutter on Pakistan, even though as you can see I'm recording from Mumbai, from Marine Drive. Nobody can miss this side. And the people, this is the beauty of the spirit of Mumbai. There are so many people, they go about their business and they don't interrupt you. They don't come and pose for selfies, etc., etc. They know what it is to respect somebody who's doing something on camera. This is the capital of showbiz in India, not for no reason. Now, 3 things about Pakistan, I told you. The third is the juiciest and the most interesting. It's also the least surprising. But because it is the juiciest, we will talk about it in slightly more detail than the other 2, and I'll keep it for the end. So here we go. The first one, as you've seen in your headlines, the meltdown of Imran Khan's party has begun. Now, this meltdown, I must admit, has been more rapid than I would have thought. I would have thought that given the fact that he had so much street power and his people had risen in revolt, attacking the top military installations, corps commanders' homes, an air force station, like that, I would have thought that he will rouse his support base again. But he is now proven to be a little bit cowardly, because his last long speech, about 20-minute speech, I heard that was a speech not of defiance. That was a speech addressed to the army, saying, look, how can you even imagine that I can mean any harm to you? I am your supporter. I've been defending you across the world. I was a global citizen. Even though I was not in politics, I was defending the army. So on and so forth. So he's since then been writing apology letters in his speeches to the army, saying, when did I mean any harm to you? And saying that you catch anybody who attacked your installations because you now have facial recognition, etc. You catch them, my people will never do it. The fact is, thousands of people have been arrested. Many of these are people from his parties. Many of these are members of provincial assembly, members of national assembly, that is Pakistan's equivalent of MPs and MLAs. Many of them, after a few days in the custody of the army, have said, look, I am taking retirement from politics. These include somebody we've known for a very long time, those of us on Pakistan beat, and also on the think tank beat, track 2 beat, Shireen Bazari, for example. She was a minister in Imran's government. Shireen Bazari is also a well-known scholar. All right, she can be quite vicious when it comes to India, but people are entitled to their views, and we Indians can respond to their views as we wish. But that apart, she's an intellectual, she's a politician, she's not keeping very good health, but she was arrested and looked like, even when she was released on court orders, she was re-arrested. So she said she's retiring from politics, as are many others. Now, I'm not running through their names because one, it'll take too long, and second, in India, we are not even familiar with many of these names. Now, this is a kind of a meltdown with 30 odd already gone. Most of them MPAs, MLAs or MPs. Now, that tells you that Imran Khan's party is breaking up, that his party leadership is not showing the guts. They are not showing it that they have it in their gut to fight the army. It was one thing to talk about it the first day, get the mobs out, but once that is over, this excitement is over, they are not willing to do it. That's why a lot of them are leaving. They have no stomach for jail. And it tells us 2 things about Pakistani politics. One, that at the larger level, why mobs may get angry, they say ye jo dehshatgardi hai, iske piche vardi hai. But at a larger level, the sympathy for the army remains intact. Imran Khan's counter would have been the real threat to Pakistan army is that a lot of the rank and file in the Pakistani army, young officers, many of the other Islamists, and there's a lot of them now. They themselves may not be, in fact, looks like are not in agreement with the current Pakistani army leadership on what they are doing. But is Imran Khan willing to rouse them? Because if he were to rouse them, he has to first hit the streets himself and his people, create ruckus on the streets, make a nuisance of themselves, and when the army has to take action, then the views of the rank and file or the emotions or sentiments of the rank and file will be tested. That obviously he has decided not to do, and that's where I'd say he's chickened out. After initially saying my fight is with the army chief, my fight is with such and such in ISPR, such and such in ISI, number 2 in ISI, the DDG, internal politics, or DDG counterintelligence and ISI, who he said is trying to assassinate him thrice, he has now pulled away. He's now appealing to the army, and because he has done that, his troops have also lost morale or at least losing their morale. The second interesting thing in Pakistan, the army has said that those who attacked its installations, they will be tried, or some of them will be tried under the Army Act. Now, the Army Act, as in India also has an Army Act. Every country has an Army Act. Army Act usually or almost always applies only to soldiers, only to those who are in the army. Army Act in India does not apply to most of us, does not apply to me, does not apply to most of you unless you are a soldier in the army. In Pakistan, they are now saying that they will try these civilian protesters who they think have done damage to them or their installations under the Army Act. Now, if you look at the Army Act in Pakistan, the iteration of the Army Act, actually the Army Act does not give you any provision whereby you can try a Pakistani civilian under the Army Act. The only time it allows you to try a civilian under the Army Act, a non-army person, is one, if the civilian Pakistani is seducing. Now, that's a letter that the Pakistani lawmakers have decided to use, so I'll say it with a straight face. If they are seducing or attempting to seduce any person subject to this act, that means any soldier subject to the Army Act, if somebody is trying to talk or bribe or enlist or subvert anybody who's currently covered by the Army Act into betraying Pakistan or their allegiance to the government or their allegiance to duty, then that person, even if the person is a civilian, can be tried under the Army Act. There is another provision where a civilian can be tried under the Army Act for crimes in relation to Army, Navy, Air Force installations, etc. It's a very convoluted formulation, so I'm not reading it out to you. I would say some of the writing of Pakistani laws sometimes I find very confusing, and I think some of those who write these laws in the Pakistani bureaucracy, including the military bureaucracy, have to go to law school afresh and learn the basic craft of writing a law. But this says that civilians can be tried for offences to do with defence installations insofar as these are covered under the Official Secrets Act. Anybody leading a mob or any member of a mob going into a court commander's house, burning some furniture, is not violating the Official Secrets Act. But it is the fear now of being tried under the Army Act in army courts, in military courts, that has put the fear of the Almighty in Pakistan's case. I'm not using Almighty with a capital A, that is only one Almighty. But Almighty in Pakistan's case is the army. Almighty power in Pakistan's politics, in the minds of Imran Khan supporters as well, including his key political leaders of his party. Now, this is the second one. What is the third element, which I said is the juiciest? The third element is, remember, I also said it is the juiciest, but it is the least surprising. So a story has now emerged, and this is the case that's going on in Lahore High Court because it's been challenged by some people, and 29th of May is the next date of hearing of this case. Pakistani army has demanded you can choose the expression you want. Pakistani army has demanded from Pakistan's Punjab government to to give it land. Now we all know Pakistan's army loves land, particularly land as in apni land, right? How much land have they asked for? They've asked for 1 million acres. 1 billion acres, you can convert it into hectares. 1 billion acres is a lot of land. Now, if you look at all the land under cultivation in Haryana, for example, right, it would be about 10 billion acres of land. So it's about 1/10 of all the land under cultivation in Haryana. Why does the army want it? The army says we want this land for corporate farming, because Pakistan has food shortage, Pakistan has energy shortage. Somebody has to do something about it. So give us the land. We'll set up joint ventures in the corporate sector with Punjab government, etc., and then we'll do business. We'll make money on this land. Of all that is earned from this agriculture on this land, 20% will go towards further agricultural research. Rest of the profit will be divided 50-50 between the Punjab government of Pakistan, the state government, and the army. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the army in any democracy going to a lawfully established government and saying, "Hey, तुम मुझे जमीन दो, मैं तुम्हें profit दूंगा 50%," right? And in this case, it's 1 million acres. And then they've said that while you finish the formalities of giving us 1 million acres, give us 45,000 acres to begin with elsewhere, right, in Punjab, so we can run some pilot projects. That allotment was made by the government of Usman Buzdar, who was from Imran Khan's party. Army asked for something, there is no bureaucracy. You bend over backwards and sign on the dotted line. He made that allotment when he was caretaker chief minister. That's how Lahore High Court had stated, saying that your government did not have the power to do it because you are a caretaker government. Now it's come up before the new government. That was a 45,000 acre land allocation. This demand is for 1 million acres. This demand is also in a very interesting area. This is in a desert area with hardly any fertility, very barren area. This is called the Cholistan region of Pakistan. Now, Cholistan, the word Choli does not come from anything corny. Choli is in Turkish like sand. So these are vast expanses of deserts bordering India. So the 3 districts that constitute the Cholistan region in Pakistan's Punjab, the very deep south of Pakistan's Punjab, the 3 districts are Bahawalnagar, see on the map, Bahawalnagar, Bahawalpur and Rahim Yar Khan. All 3 of these border India. In military terms, is what is described by the Indian Armed Forces as the southern sector of India-Pakistan borders. And that is where exercise brass tacks, etc. were held, because these are vast open desert spaces. So this is the ideal tank country. Very little grows in this area on either side. On the Pakistani side, even less so, because that area becomes even drier. Now, Pakistani army wants 1 million acres of land there. Now, Cholistan generally can be divided into 2. Greater Cholistan, which is about 13,600 square kilometers, and Lesser Cholistan, which is about 12,370 square kilometers. Greater Cholistan is drier, has sand dunes and go up to 100 meters. That is the area that borders India. And that's the reason I said on both sides that's the ideal tank country, because both sides also have very few water obstacles. So they either have to dig ditches or canals, etc., and that is why both sides have seen this as vulnerable. So when I see the Pakistani army asking for 1 million acres there, and they say they will turn it into some kind of a green area by using modern technologies, etc., I also wonder if the effort is also not to bring in water for some place, maybe grow orchards there. It will be a great idea if they can green this area up, but also to create some kind of, if not obstacles for future Indian moves in that area, but also to get it better inhabited, get some economic value out of it, And then trees, agriculture, all of this and construction offers you protection as well. Because anything is better than a totally empty desert. I don't know. I don't see it anywhere in any statement of purpose that the Pakistani army has put before the court. But before the court, they've said that look, there is nothing new about armies getting involved in national development. So there is a quote from the press conference by Major General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhary, who is Director General of Media Wing at Inter-Services Public Relations, ISPR, who says, look, in Pakistan, food security is a challenge. And this is a quote from him. He says, in developing and developed countries, their governments have used the military in some way or the other to improve their agriculture. So why can't we do it? Why can't we do it? And the Punjab government in Pakistan, under what pretext have they cleared this first 45,000 acres? They cleared this under the pretext of requirement under CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. That seems to be the umbrella under which you can park almost anything there. Along with this 1 billion acres, Pakistani army has also asked for an additional grant of 30,000 acres in the same Kholistan area to be given away to the families and widows of their martyrs, or shuhada as they call them. So this is a big demand, big ask for land. As things stand, this has gone to High Court in Pakistan. And we know how these back and forth things happen between the court and the establishment in Pakistan. So this is another interesting test. But once again, think about it. An army in a country which has a democratically elected government and a constitution, it makes demands to set up agricultural farms, joint venture agricultural corporate farms on 1 million acres of land. Now that said, before I let you go away, I'll point you also to Aisha Siddiqa's book and much else writing on Pakistan's military, including a paper by Paul Stalin and P. Nasrullah and E. Butt, a 2020 paper published in Journal of Strategic Studies at King's College, and this paper is titled Pakistan's Military Elite. If you look at Paul Stalin's paper, it tells you, see the chart, see the screenshot, how well Pakistan's corps commanders do even after they retire. So of the corps commanders, 23.4%, that is almost 1 in 4, then becomes the head of an army run, of a Fauji foundation or an Askari foundation. Askari is soldiering. Becomes the head of one of these Fauji run, army run foundations, or one of these army run corporate organizations. Pakistani army has a special place in Pakistan's economy and power structure. Once again, if you see Aisha Siddiqa's book, and I'm sharing one screenshot with you, it tells you the companies that the armed forces, foundations and organizations run. So there is Fauji Gas, Foundation Gas, Murray Gas, both army run. There is a Fauji Corn Complex, Maki, corn. So maybe they make cornflakes, Fauji Cement, Fauji Sugar Mills, Fauji Fertilizer Mills. There is also a joint venture for importing potash from Morocco that goes into fertilizers. Fauji Foundation experimented in seed multiplication farms, Fauji Oil Terminal and Distribution Company, Fauji Foundation University, and then Askari stud farms, right? Bunch of stud farms, rice mills, sugar mills, fish farms, cement manufacturing plants, then a bunch of shopping plazas. The army runs shopping plazas as well. That is the Army Welfare Trust. They have commercial plazas. Then leasing, insurance, banking and aviation businesses. This is where the Air Force with its foundation, Shaheen Foundation, also gets in. So when you look at all that, you should not be surprised that Pakistani army is making a demand for land in Pakistani Punjab. Little bit of surprise that the demand is for 1 million acres of land. 1 million acres of land. That's the reason I said this is a juicy story, that we are an army, but we can also do agriculture. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. That's another spin on Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Right? We'll do your farming as well. But the fact that they have the cheek to ask for it is not a surprise.